Hello and welcome to Endurance Minded. It's the podcast that aims to redefine what it means to reach our full potential by exploring how movement and mindset impacts our lives and how we can all work to show up as the best versions of ourselves. I'm your host, Taylor Thomas, founder at TEC. Hello everyone. Before we jump into today's episode, I want to take a minute to tell you about a new partner that I am genuinely excited about. If you've listened to this show for any amount of time, you know I am extremely selective about who we work with, and I get approached by companies all the time. The answer has pretty much always been no. And that's why I'm really excited to announce that Hazlo is becoming the official beverage partner of Endurance Minded. Hazlo is a brand that creates their products with care and intention, and that's why it resonates so deeply with me. I've become close friends with Sam, the founder, and through our conversations about endurance, business, life, health, and everything in between, I believe that he has truly created a product that is unique and different from the flavors to the production process. They just released their new blood orange and hibiscus flavor, and I've had the chance to try it, and I have to say that it is extraordinary and by far my favorite flavor yet. We have an exclusive discount for Endurance Minded audience. It's available in the show notes. We're going to link to that there. Do yourself a favor, hit that link and go grab yourself a case. I can't wait to offer Hazlo to our entire community. I'm grateful for Sam and for the Hazlo team. And without further ado, please enjoy today's conversation. Sam, welcome. So excited.
Hello. Me too.
You're finally here. We did it.
We did it.
This is a big episode. Some big announcements as a result of this episode. Before we get into our conversation today, I want everyone listening to understand why Hazlo's coming on as the official partner of Endurance Minded. I get approached by companies all the time, as I'm sure we all do, folks in this space, but literally every day somebody's like, can you feature my protein? Can you feature my sleep aid? Can you feature my device? Can you feature my clothes? Can you feature the list goes on and on and on. And I have said no to all of them. And we've had a couple of great sponsors over the years, but largely speaking, we haven't done this because it's important to me that the people involved with Endurance Minded are values aligned, that the companies involved and that represent Endurance Minded are values aligned. And after spending and having the opportunity to spend a lot of time with you and work very closely with you and have just amazing conversations and get to know Hazlo as a brand, and to buy it for myself and stock it in my own fridge and drink way too many every day, long before you came on as the official partner. It became very clear to me that this was the type of fit that I was looking for, and this was the type of brand, and you're the type of founder that I'm excited to represent Endurance Minded and everything that this show represents for me and for our audience, and the last 7 years of building this podcast, and now into what I hope is an extremely valuable platform. So before we dive in, I want to say thank you. And I want to say how extremely excited I am to have someone like yourself at the helm of a brand that I truly, truly believe in, and couldn't be more excited to keep building and to get this incredible product in front of people that are excited and ready to make choices that align with their values and show up for themselves in a way that makes them feel good. And so I want to say thank you. And with my can of Hazlo, I want to say cheers.
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 That's me cracking one. Wow. Incredible intro. And I am equally honored to be here and to know you as a friend and mentor and to be a part of this conversation and have you as an ambassador of what we're trying to do here. So very excited for today.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Well, let's. There's so many places we could start. And you and I have had so many conversations, like I said, and I'm grateful to have had the opportunity and continue to have the opportunity to connect with you and share our stories of entrepreneurship. You and I were just kind of I don't know if we call it waxing poetic, but we immediately, as soon as you jumped on and before we hit go and record, we fell right into talking about, the inevitable, highs, lows, and betweens, of this journey of entrepreneurship and building something. So I'm curious, and I don't know that you and I have actually explicitly talked about this. I'm sure that we've gotten around to it, in bits and pieces, but I want to go back maybe a little bit to the beginning before Hazlo was a thing, or at the onset of that. What did you paint me a picture of what you thought entrepreneurship was going to look and feel like?
That is a interesting and layered question. So, my life before running this beverage company was spent in the software space primarily, and so I was in the startup world, but of Silicon Valley. And the thing I've learned through these years is startup is kind of a very ambiguous word that refers to everything. And I joined a startup that was a $100 million, 500 employee company. That was my first startup that I worked at. And
quotes are very important, I think. There,
yes, exactly. And I was able to be there through an IPO, but then it was actually the second company that I worked at in the software world where I joined much earlier. Like I was the 19th employee, but I sat across from my CEO, and I saw for the first time in my life someone like in front of me conducting business and leading a company. And that was kind of an aha moment to me of like, that is what I've wanted my job to be my whole life. Like that is the person I want to embody in the role I want to play and all these things. And so my understanding of startup and entrepreneurship was you have a $10 million round from a VC company, and you've hired a fleet of people around you to help you build this thing. And I think that I caught a bug and wanted to go explore that. But my experience is in being a solopreneur and somebody building something from the ground up as themselves with little to no funding, the reality of that has been very different. But I think if I can encapsulate what I saw, his name's Mahesh, what I saw Mahesh doing was just someone who was creating a vision and sharing that with the team and kind of inviting people and enrolling people to help him realize that in tangible ways, whether, with software, but like creating something and creating experiences for people. And, that is what I saw the role of a CEO and a founder being, and what I've, done my best to embody in building a beverage brand in different degrees.
Did you recognize, sounds like you recognized early on the importance of the vision and conveying that vision. Is that fair?
Totally. Yeah. And I think that's I've had a sales related role my entire life. And I think that's kind of what I gravitate towards, is the person who says something and then delivers on it. And I feel like that's kind of the role of that, in my belief, is I see something in the future and I cast this vision, and then I actually execute and make it something that's real.
Good on you. It took me a long time. It took me several businesses to figure that out. I feel like I only now, not now, but in the last, I don't know, maybe decade or so. I agree with you, but I wouldn't have been able to articulate that in the founding of my first couple of ventures. And so it's really cool to hear you say that, and I imagine, or I know that is why there is, the alignment that I talked about earlier, because it is something that's so important and people are drawn to a vision. But I don't, in my experience, early stage founders, first time founders, I think miss that. They think their job is other things. And so good on you.
Well,
I'm in that camp. I didn't get that till later.
I think I might have had that earlier, but there's other elements that I'm probably lagging on. So there's areas that you've been light years ahead of me in many categories, and I'm actually really curious to hear what your initial kind of belief was around this, or I guess kind of the how you saw your role. But it's I started thinking of this business when it's 2019 and like the Fire Festival documentary came out, and it was like this aha moment that hit me across the head of like the only difference between that guy and we'll just like plug in Apple and Steve Jobs, right? It's like the only difference between that guy, Billy McFarlane or whatever his name was, and Steve Jobs was like Steve Jobs actually just delivered on it, right? Like they both spoke in this like very grandiose in ways and created this world that no one really could believe in. And then Steve Jobs just made it real, and the other guy did it. But I'm really curious about what your experience was.
It's a good question. I've now had time to think about this a lot. I didn't give entrepreneurship any thought when I started. It is foolish how little thought. Like in a bad way. Like I should have paused. It's not even from a place of confidence, because I didn't even stop long enough to wonder if I was confident or not, or to feel it. I had an idea. I found a handful of people that were behind that idea, and I so quickly went all in. Like I was working. I was 21 years old. I was out of college. I was working. I was very involved in endurance sports. I was racing. I was cycling at a professional level, and I was working for a bicycle manufacturer on kind of the R&D side, and had this idea and started to put some pieces together. And 6 months later, quit my job with no money, like a handful of dollars in savings. My now wife and I packed up and moved to California to grow this business, and that was it. Like it never crossed my mind if I was good at something, or was I a visionary, or was I this, or what was my role? And so I don't even really have a good answer. I feel like, or it's certainly not an articulate answer, because it's only in the last, maybe decade, but truthfully, maybe even less than that I've started to articulate or think critically about what is my role in this space. Where do I show up? How do I think about entrepreneurship? How do I think about my vision and what I want to build and my role in that? And I've spent, I spent the first 15 years just like foot on the gas and be like, I'm going to build it. And it will be so. And I've failed at that a lot. Not everything that I've tried to build has worked. But yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. Yeah. I wish that I had like a better story, or like, I wish that I had thought, but I just remember so vividly never even considering that I couldn't, that it just wouldn't happen. I was like, I can work really hard. And I think that if I do that for long enough, something will come of it. Yeah.
Well, and I think you're touching on, because I think both of us, we came in from different angles, two sides of the same coin. And there is a necessary amount of naivete to be brazen enough to be like, yeah, I can create something out of nothing and have it become something.
You have to be delusional. I say this all the time. Like it is silly to imagine a world where everyone has failed and that you think you are good enough to do it. How many people have started drink brands? How many people have started, like, pick a lane? It doesn't matter what industry you're in. Everyone has failed. And you're like, nope, I got this. Like you have to be like, I mean, I couldn't agree more.
And I think the endurance and I think why you and I have connected so quickly is like the endurance world is such a perfect kind of like representation of entrepreneurship, where the only true fit, like you can fail all the time. Like you will. It is a guaranteed part of everything. But the only true failure is when you just like give up and don't do it anymore. Right. Like that. And I think that that's true for entrepreneurship and endurance sports, where, like DNFing is a prerequisite to doing anything in the endurance world, but you are not a failure and so long as you get back on the bike. And I think that's the same thing with like whether, it is a bit certain business idea, where I'm holding this can of a new flavor, that this was a form factor. Like it's gone through like seven to 10 different iterations, where each one of those is a failure, because if it worked, I would still be selling it. But the fact that it continued to go in some capacity is what I think is the key, personally, as someone who's still very much in the middle of the race and has not made it to the finish line.
Yeah. No, the goal. Yeah. When it makes me, the thing that comes to mind and is there a point, maybe it's a 2-part question. One, did you think it was going to be quick? Like when you started, we were like, okay, I can knock this out in some amount of time and it's quick. And then second part of that question, if that was the case, when did you realize that it was going to take a long time? That the goal was actually to stay in the race? Because I know that I have gone through several versions of that kind of mindset adjustment in my career, but what's that been like for you?
I thought this was like a year-long thing. Like I would give it a year, and by the end of that year, I would be fabulously wealthy and successful. Like it was, I needed to, obviously it wasn't going to be overnight, but like 365 days, like this will be on the moon by then. And I think that's, again, that's the naivete. Like I'm sure if I had been able to whisper to myself, like, hey bro, it's 7-8 years from now and you're still in the thick of it. I'm not sure how. I probably would have not believed whatever voice was telling me that regardless, but I definitely did not. I thought it was going to go much quicker. And I think the beauty of, and part of, I guess, what made me believe that was being in the software space, where there was things that did not exist before, and 8 months later are like rocket ships. And now we're in the age of AI, where like companies that didn't exist 6 months ago are worth like $1 billion, which is just insane to me of that. How quickly that happened. And so for me, choosing a physical product and a beverage, I mean, as soon as I started trying to like create a drink, like I had no pre-existing knowledge of anything in physical products, let alone like product beverage formulation. So trying to like figure out how to go from this idea I had to like liquid in a drink that I could consume and it not kill me was like this world that I had no understanding of. And starting down that path and actually like, starting with this formulator. And I guess this is like a huge first lesson to me, was like the first person I worked with to develop it was seemingly a good person, and it really aligned with what I was trying to build. And then when the moment came to like actually create a drink, just like didn't deliver on anything, and like how little control I had over that, and how, like helpless I felt trying to like get somebody to care as much as I cared about this thing that I wanted to make. And so as soon as I was in that, which was, that was my first year, was like idea, find somebody to work with. And by the end of that year, have that person completely ignore me and rip me off of all the money that I paid them. That was when I was like, okay, this is going to be a much longer haul. And to your point, like I kind of there was multiple stops along the way where I don't want to say gave up, but like I resigned myself to the reality that like this either isn't going to work or isn't going to work how I thought it was going to. But every day I would wake up and I would be thinking about it. And it's like this constant low hum of like, I need to at least scratch this itch. I need to at least go and put it into to get it to a point where I feel like that the end result represents what I initially had in my brain. And I'm still on that pursuit, but I actually think I'm the closest I've ever been.
When that person, that first formulator, for lack of a better word, screwed you over, did you pause? Were you thinking, maybe this is it, I'll hang it up? Or was it a pivot and a just retool and look forward?
It was, like initially I was like, screw that guy. He doesn't understand what he is blowing off right now, and instantly, like immediately started calling other people and having those conversations. It was about 3 months later though, when I had all those conversations and I got to the point of like almost working with, a couple and like signing a contract and like having the moment to like ask myself like what about this situation is different than the one before, and I would conclude that they were the same in each one. So it was 3 months later, and I just kind of realized that the way that I was going about it just wasn't working. And so that's actually where I started to like waver and be like, I don't know if this is supposed to happen, and I might as well spend my time elsewhere. And that was magically 4 days before I actually ended up meeting the person who created the drink. But that whole process came on the heels of like, I got to a point where I came up with the idea in 2018. It was 2019 when the formulation went south. And so it was like July timeframe that I was really looking for something new. And by the time October came, I was kind of over it. Like it had been a year and a half of me like thinking about this thing and trying to create it and failing every step of the way and losing money the whole time. And so it was actually a friend of a friend of a friend, right? So like my friend's mom is a lawyer who works with this other person who set me up at a call, who then was like, you need to connect with my friend Eden. And I had a call with Eden that lasted 10 minutes. We barely talked to each other and hung up. And for some reason I was like, I think that person is who I need to like talk to her. I need to sit down with her. Like this is supposed to be in person. That happened during this like string of me trying and failing. And ultimately 4 days after I gave up on the dream, Eden emailed me saying she was free for coffee on Thursday. And I almost blew it off because like I didn't have anything to talk about. And go to the coffee meeting. She asked me how things are going. I like word vomit for 20 minutes about how miserable I am and how hard this is and like everything. And she like owned a bar. That was her like entrepreneurial connection. And so for 20 minutes, she just let me go and just talk and vent. And at the end of the 20 minutes, I like realized that I had been talking nonstop for 20 minutes and kind of just like got super red and shut up and like recoiled. And she just looked at me and she was like, Sam, first of all, as an entrepreneur, there's no one I know that has built anything of meaning, has ever gone to that point and created this without feeling exactly the way that you feel right now. So like, this is normal and exactly how you're supposed to feel. And the second thing, she's like, and I don't know if you know this, but I also formulate beverages on the side and love your idea and would love to make it for you. And that was like this like mind explosion thing. And come to find out that I didn't even know at the time that she's like a James Beard winning mixologist and one of the most recognized mixologists in the country. So anyway, that was a very long-winded way to say I thought it was going to be really, I thought that there was going to be a really quick solution. And then I got beat down again and, started to consider giving up. And then as that has happened every single other time I get to that point, the answers are given to me in those moments.
What parts of you, I'll try to articulate this question and see if I have it like mapped out in my mind. what let me describe it and see if a question comes out of this. I feel like in my experience, when you're in time periods like that, when you're in those lows, or the answers, or the solutions to the thing that you want, or it doesn't seem to be clicking, everything seems to be a little further away, it's taking longer than you want, the people don't seem to be presenting themselves, whatever that scenario is, I've found that there has to be some part of that equation where you have to change in some way to be available to the information or the growth or the opportunity that's in front of you. Like I've found that, in some way, like, we're our own roadblock up until the point where we decide that we have to change, and then things clear up. And that happens a lot. You're like, okay, like this can't just be, I'm not calling the right person. Like there's something else going on here, right? It's not as simple as I just need to cold call more people, right? Like, so whatever the like transactional aspect of the thing is. So if that makes sense, you're shaking your head, so I'm hoping that I'm communicating effectively. What parts of you have had to change for like those breakthroughs, those things where you're like, okay, that's what I needed. That's the next step. That's the connection. That's the clarity. That's the product. There's a million of them, right? From where you started to where you're at now. What are some of those parts of you that you now see had to change to create space for those breakthroughs?
I definitely, you were seeing me nod because I definitely have experienced and agree fully with that. I think for me, and this is probably to do with like my upbringing in sports and being in sales, right? Like the answer to the question of how can I be better is always just work harder for longer. Like that is how I grew up in sports. I was never, I guess when I was like 5, I was the fastest guy, and then that quickly did not exist anymore.
I had the same thing. I remember like in kindergarten, like I set the record at my school, and I but then I went on to be very, very average.
Very average in every single facet. Yeah. So like I had a taste of being just elite at something, and then that quickly went away. And the only way that I would compete on sports fields is just like outworking everybody. And this is something that I've like realized later is like I still have like a very critical view of how much I work or how hard I work, regardless of the fact that like 100% of human beings from the outside refer to me as a hard worker, right? Like it's just, there's something innate in me that, I always think I'm not working hard enough, which means I work super hard most times. And so that then led to like sales where, ultimately, like, especially in the software capacity, it's like the amount of emails you send and phone calls you make equal how much money you make. And like, if you want to make more money, send more emails and make more phone calls. And so I had this like very deeply ingrained into me belief and approach to life that was like the answer to the question of like, how do I fix this is just like doing more and working harder. And what's in referring to my beverage in particular, like this thing is its own entity, and I created it, and the first form that it was so far from what it needed to be to actually like reap rewards of the input of effort to the output. And so I think to answer the question again, like adding all this context, is I would only realize it after I tried the button of work harder and nothing good happened. And so then I would be discouraged and start to just like surrender to it. And then all of a sudden I was like, and now we shift. And like that has happened that has been the precursor to everything that's going on. And it's very interesting because, as of the conversations we've had over the last couple of months, I feel like I'm in a moment where I've been answering the question of like, how can I make this beverage brand work with like just doing more in every area all the time. And I think I'm being asked to like pick my head up and be like, where is the tide taking me? What is like, where am I being pushed towards, as opposed to trying to push this boulder up a hill for the 17th day in a row, to no avail. And so that's it's kind of, I would say that the surrender element is essential, but I think, and I would love to hear your experience. It's like, I know I need to surrender until I've broken myself down to the point where like, I don't have another answer other than just like, show me what I'm not seeing.
Yeah, that fully resonates. Yeah, no, I mean, you and I have talked about it, offline, but that's very much been my experience as well. And like, and I said that with my kind of origin story is like, I all I had was hard work. Seemingly, I had some skills, maybe. I figured out what they were, but I didn't lead with those, right? I led with just like this maniacal ability to bury myself every single day. And I did that in what, again, everyone around me was like, this is a foolish, like, this is relentless. Like, this is not working. And I'm like, it will continue. I will make it work. Not like the business, like there's certainly plenty of times when I was like, the business may or may not work, but like the lifestyle. And I just was like, well, I'll just show up tomorrow and do the exact same thing. And I did that for a decade. I don't know. I mean, it's something I still wrestle with. You're definitely right. It is the surrender, or that has been my experience. I still struggle to quantify what that actually is. Like, what am I supposed to surrender to, or what am I supposed to be doing in that? Like, I'm not going to articulate that well, because it is something that it is my life's work will be to let go, to try to relax. I know that it will never come easy. I will always struggle, and I will always have to try, and I will always have to figure out, what am I supposed to be doing here, if it is something other than just work harder than everyone else? Like, in quotes, like on paper, like in my mind, like, all I can deliver is my ability to just do more work, and I will always do more. And so if that's not it, which I agree with you, like there's lots of times, like all the time, that doesn't yield the results. There's a point where more doesn't get you more. I can see that happening in real time, but I struggle to know what else to do. And so then I'm like, okay, well, but then what? Then what do I do with my hands, right? Like, so yeah, like I hear you, and I feel that, and I mean, on a daily basis, I'm just like, okay, but what? Like, No,
I feel it's. I think, and as you're talking, is like the first time I'm kind of reconciling it for myself, is like because it's not, because again, I think, you're someone that has a motor that like, and that you need to be driven every day. Like, you can't, there's no idle. Like, you're not going to be okay if you're forced to do that. And like, just even for me, right, is I think a lot about the periods of my life that were the darkest for me personally were when everything was easy around me. Was like I'd had it dialed with like, the work situation and everything, and I was making money, and I just was like, I would start to attack myself. Like the energy expenditure that should be going out ended up being turned inward and was like destructive to me. And so I think the thing for me, and what I was realizing when you were talking, is like, it's not like you stop, right? But it's it's like my ego finally allowing for there to be a potential reality where I don't know all the answers, and the answer is just to work harder towards that answer that I'm so certain about, and instead being like, what if I was wrong? And then that question entering my brain allows me to then be curious about everything that's happening around me to then find the actual thing that I should be doing. And I'm realizing this is my task for me to do for the rest of however long I'm in this period of time as I'm sorting through my own life. But yeah, because again, it's like, if I ever try to do less, it ends up bad for me. And the happiest I am and the best I am as a person is when I'm waking up early, I'm going to the gym early, I am putting in the time, but maybe not necessarily as prescribed by the Sam of a year ago that decided that this is what I needed to spend the time on.
There's something with where that time comes from, if you feel like you have to do X, Y, and Z because, like you said, and I agree, it comes from a place of your ego. You're like, I need to do these things that I wrote down, or I need to finish this thing today, or I need to do an X amount of volume. Versus, I think curiosity is a great way to describe it. I think that is a piece. I couldn't find that word when I was describing kind of how it feels for me, but I think that is an important part of it. Is, it's not doing less. It is doing maybe equal amount or maybe more, or whatever the season calls for, but with, curiosity versus ego. Being a bit more curious. And yeah, do you find one of the things that I'll tell you what I struggle with, and I'd be curious to see how you handle this, or if this happens for you at all. One of the things that I struggle with / wrestle with, I don't know that I wouldn't describe it as a struggle per se, but I have this specific to vision. You're like, okay, this is the thing. This is how this is going to play out. I can see it very clearly.
Yeah. I
know that it works. Maybe I have some validation. If it's something I've built, I put it out in the world. People have been like, yeah, that's a good thing. And then it starts to get hard, or it feels cumbersome, or it starts to be filled with friction. And I wrestle with knowing when to one, knowing when to pivot, two, knowing when to take in that information and make it mean something about the direction that I should go, and then when to just continue to push forward, because that is just the appropriate amount of friction required to move something in the right direction. And that's where I feel for me, that's where my work ethic actually is a disservice to me, because I will do something without external validation forever. The thing doesn't need to work. It doesn't matter to me. It does. And that people, something needs to make money, and there's people that I'm responsible for. I can't just continue to do shit that doesn't yield results. But if I was just left to my own devices, I would stay here in my office, and I could work without anybody ever being like, that's great. It doesn't bother me at all. So how do you navigate that ecosystem of, and it could be in anywhere in life, because I find it shows up in relationships, it shows up in our work, it shows up where you're like, okay, there's real information here. What am I supposed to do with that? Is it information where I should double down? Is it information where this thing doesn't work at all and I should shift? Or is it information where I should mold the thing that's here to make it slightly more aligned with this direction, that maybe is a little bit more present or easy, or seems to be working a bit more? So yeah, is that just me?
That's no, it's definitely not just you. You're looking at you. I'm reacting in a way that is I don't have any good answer to that because I think you just
Yeah.
I mean
I
what
don't
you
either, to
described
be clear.
is the prerequisite to success in entrepreneurship. It's like the only
Hmm.
thing that is guaranteed in terms of becoming successful in entrepreneurship is a prolonged period of time where things are not working and you are not receiving the external validation and adulation that you would love to receive at some point. And then after you put in those years of work, it seemingly happens overnight and then you're there, right? Like it's
Yeah.
like a
Everybody's like, Sam, congratulations on the launch. And you're like, you don't understand how many nights I've stared at the ceiling
yeah.
fan.
And so I think that is necessary for a human being to be able to do in order to find success as an entrepreneur.
Hmm.
And also it is always, I think the biggest challenge for me, I know is like, I love biographies and reading stories of like historical figures and entrepreneurs and people that have, built things in the past. And because there's a prerequisite to anyone's success of suffering and dealing with that is that there's only a survivorship bias. So like everything kind of feels like this is just what I'm doing before the fame and money all show up. So in my pivots with the business and the product and everything, I would love a faster route. It honestly is just like that surrender thing. It's me working tirelessly trying to make this thing work in the way that I saw a year ago until I'm finally like, maybe I'm wrong. And then all of a sudden you kind of like, you allow for not like an external influence, but to be shown a different path and to be shown a slight tweak. And like, that's something that I still am struggling with is like, I feel like I've gotten to a point where I have like a mature product and I know this is not going to be the end state of it forever, but like to look at this and see the caliber of this versus what it was 5 years ago. And what I thought I had a finished product 5 years ago. Right. And so it's guaranteed. And it also is because we have been taught that it is necessary for the success. It's really challenging to know when is the moment to like take your foot off the gas and like see if there's a different option.
If you're a coach, personal trainer, nutritionist, gym owner, or any kind of health and fitness entrepreneur, I want to ask you a question. Do you ever feel like you're incredible at what you do, but building the business feels harder than it should? Maybe you're struggling to consistently attract paying clients. Maybe marketing feels like you're throwing things at the wall, hoping something sticks. Or maybe you're just tired of trying to figure it out all by yourself. That's exactly why we created Growth Circle. Growth Circle is a community built specifically for health, fitness, and wellness entrepreneurs who want to build a business that's not only profitable, but actually sustainable. It's not another course with hours of videos you'll never finish. It's an ecosystem designed to help you grow. Inside Growth Circle, you'll get our masterminds, immersive quarterly retreats, our inner circle membership, where you'll receive ongoing mentorship, accountability, strategic coaching, and a community of people who genuinely understand what you're building. The goal isn't just to help you make more money. It's to help you build a business that's aligned with your values, surrounded by people who have your back, and supported by systems that allow you to create the impact you know that you're capable of. If you're ready to stop building alone and start building with purpose, head over to Impact Initiative and check out Growth Circle. We'd love to have you in our community. I know that intellectually, but I don't know that I've really thought about that, like the survivor bias piece. Like if it is something that you recognize as the inherent quality of doing hard things, then you will always be able to justify that you are in the place right before the thing happens. And so you're like, yeah, this is just what it takes. But tomorrow or next week or what? Because there's always that story, and yeah.
And and to go back to how we started this with like the need of delusion, because the adage of like, if you believe you can or you believe you can't, you're always right. So it's like, in order for you to create anything, you have to have a full embodiment of belief that it can happen. And also, most people fail. So like, clearly not everyone is correct about their belief that this is what is going to work. And it is, I've yet to find a way to test that hypothesis that doesn't involve pushing myself to the brink every single time.
Yeah. The thing that I find myself, this has only happened kind of, in the last handful of years, as I've had, a fair amount of experience working for myself and building things, is, one of the kind of core attributes of a successful entrepreneur that I've come to align with is the ability to be exceedingly decisive amidst a tremendous amount of noise. There's a million things that you could do. What is the thing today? Yeah. What is amidst the people telling you it's wrong, amidst the person trying to screw you over, amidst the you're right. There's all this stuff, right? It's just noise. And then I think, from my experience, is like it's decisiveness, and I've really kind of really clung to that word. But what happens is, what has happened to me is that now I find, because I've had lots of these experiences where I've had, some version of all the things that could happen. I've had massive failures. I've had times when I had zero money. I've had times when it was going well, employees, all that, all of it. And so I'm like, okay, now I can kind of see it. I know what it feels like to be in these environments, these time periods. I'm like, okay, this is a pressure cooker. This is what this starts to look like. So I start to have a bit of an out of body experience where I'm like, okay, I know what this is generally. This moment calls for decisiveness. And then I find myself zooming out. I'm like, okay, is this that, how do I treat this scenario in a way that I can look back and would be able to say that my decisiveness was the thing that moved it forward? Right? Because there's those stories where oh, if he would have made this call versus this call, it would have totally gone differently. But because I'm talking third person, proverbially, because he or she or whomever had this level of decisiveness, it equal. We can now see 5 years down the road that led to this. And I find myself, I do this all the time. I trying to calculate that in real time. It's it's out of body. I'm like, what would it look like to make this decisive decision right now that would then lead to is this one of those scenarios? Am I in it right now? Is this it? Where a year from now, I'm like, oh shit, that was it. That was the thing. And if I would have made another decision, but it drives me crazy because I can't know that. That's foolish. I've had lots of experiences. Also, every experience is a new experience. Just because it feels somewhat similar, or it's a similar narrative, doesn't mean that it's the same thing. It's different people, it's different time, it's different. And so I don't know, I don't even know if I have a question with that, other than I'm curious if that's something that you've dealt with, or maybe the question is, to what degree does that decisiveness come into your internal dialogue and narrative when you think about what it takes to move forward amidst friction and the highs and lows that are inevitable?
Yeah, I mean, so I have a couple angles that I want to attack this from, but the first one I think is just I think the form factor is different, but the zoom out and look at the bigger picture and forecast down the line is that is literally what we do. That is what, when you're creating something, building a business, leading a movement, the ability to look at yourself at a point in time and zoom out and try to be how do these moves navigate towards ultimately where I want to go? So I do that probably way too much. But for me, in the decisiveness, right, is and this is, I think, probably where some of my work can come from, but making decisions I get a dopamine hit from it. Like I love making decisions. I love the decisiveness element of it. And like, my wife gets driven crazy because we'll be thinking about what's for dinner. And I'm like, this one, like, it's just like, why are we spending time evaluating? We could just pick one and move forward. Right. Like I am addicted to that. Make a decision and take a step. And I think tying it to the past one, right, of like, when is the time to make the pivot and make when do you make the decision to alter course in a different way than you're already going? And for me, and this is my version of what you described. It's like, I know at some point in my future, I will be writing a book, and I'm going to write a book about my life and experience up until that point. And when I think about like my business, right, or just anything along this path, I'm often like, if I make this decision, is this the end of the book? Is this like the chapter ending? Like, I think about it in terms of like, how will it be categorized by my future self when I'm recounting this? And it doesn't do much for me other than, like, 100% of the time, the answer is to keep moving forward. And whether that is in this direction or that direction, that is the area, the calibration I still need to work on. But ultimately, it's always to continue to take that step forward. And I think, to go back to how I started this, was like, I think as an entrepreneur, you need to be able to put yourself in a future position and work your way back from there to help influence what you do today to go closer to that.
How does that show up in other areas of your life?
I mean, I just mentioned my wife, right? So like in relationships, it's really interesting because and this actually I think goes to like what you said, like you see the vision and then the friction shows up, right? And like, I see so clearly how me doing exactly what I'm doing is going to yield the future of our dreams. And one, it's my job. It's like my responsibility really to like enroll her in that and include her in that and like want to build that together. And guess what happens when another human being gets involved? And that is like, there is a complete other experience and perspective that is usually not most frequently not aligned with exactly how I see the future to be. And so that's actually an area of like struggle. And this is part of our conversations have been around navigating entrepreneurship with a long-term life partner. So I'd really love to hear your experience with this from a relationship standpoint. But to go back to how I said, like, I love making decisions. I have been asked and tasked to have so much more patience, not just for her, but for like life, because I need to be making the decision that is most beneficial for everybody on the team, as opposed to what I, as my self-appointed leader of the team, thinks is the way to go. So, in conclusion, I'm struggling with it. So I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. I asked because my experience has been that it certainly is a proxy for other areas of my life. It is a lens through which I have learned so much about myself. There is no level of introspection or nothing in my experience that can reveal who you are and what matters most and the areas you need to work on, like trying to build something from scratch. And I'm grateful for that. But it is challenging. I'm so grateful that I have a partner, my wife, that we've been together for over 20 years. And for nearly all of those years, I have been building things from scratch. And she has been extremely patient. But it is hard, I don't, while you were talking, I was like, man, if I'm going to be honest, then I do think, and this is just my opinion and experience, but if this is kind of like, I'm thinking about like for people that are in partnership with entrepreneurs, with people that are trying to bring something to life into this world that before this didn't exist. I think that is a really, I think that's really hard. I think it is if you are an individual who, wants to start a small business or has a side hustle or wants to, create something that, is just great for you and it's a passion of yours. I don't know that I use that distinction, not because that's a bad way to spend your time or that those businesses are any less valuable. I don't think that's where the issue comes in. I think, again, from my experience, if you are going to build a life with someone who can't help but bring these things into existence, and they truly can't see themselves doing anything else, and there is the word that I've been coming back to is maniacal. Like I feel it's all I like. if I wasn't reminded, and this is going to sound horrible, but this is the honest truth. There are days like if I wasn't reminded that there are people around me that would care about me, all I would do is work and focus on work and focus on moving these things that I am committed to forward. And I think if you are going to choose to partner with someone who feels any version of that, I think that is challenging. I tell my wife all the time, I'm like, I'm sorry. Like, it can't be that easy. I'm not it has to be easier for someone, and I'm not minimizing anyone's lived experience or saying that like I am better or this is harder or easier. Everyone gets to have their own reality, and that gets to be right. In my experience though, like surely it would have to be easier to just have someone that can clock out and shut it down and be fully present and excited about the day and not wake up in the middle of the night. You and I were just talking about that. Like I'm like, I can be a mess, there's plenty of times where like, I'm not paying attention and I'm trying so hard and I'm not there, and I want to be, I really, really do. But it's, this is my battle. And I'm very aware of it. And so, yeah, I don't have a good answer. I think it's hard, man. I think it requires a tremendous amount of trust and vulnerability and communication. And then also I think like, I don't know, like maybe also just like buckle up, like I think it's also maybe just like a little harder. Like it's a little more dynamic than the person who's like, got my paycheck, let's go on vacation, I'm ready to shut it down. Like I can't be that person, and I don't want to be that person, but I think that is challenging for the people on the other side of that.
Well, I think I'm someone who has uniquely lived both ways, right? Like I have been the person who collected the paycheck, enjoyed my long weekends, took the vacation and just clocked out. And two things. One was it definitely was easier for my partners at the time to to date that person than who my wife is in partnership with today. But also it was we talked about earlier. It's like it was also some of the darkest times for me, because I didn't know at the time, but like I was just muting myself and numbing myself in different ways because I had this like burning energy, like just thing within me that needed to be expressed. And I didn't know it or know how to, or have the vocabulary or even really anything to really put it into practice. Um, but yeah, that, it's, having lived that life before, and having to sometimes, my wife never knew that version of me. And I have to remind her that I haven't always been a broke psychotic entrepreneur, but that is who she's gotten to know and love, and gets to spend her life with. And
Yeah.
Like you said, it is definitely not easy to be on the other side of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, and I've talked to my wife a lot about this over the years. I mean, I do think ultimately, all that being said, I think as well as, I know you, feel the same way. I'm someone who, I know that friction makes me better. I'm not going to be the person that can truly rise to the occasion of the relationships that I care deeply about, if I'm not if I'm not fully in it. I can see so clearly how that applies in these other areas of my life, and yeah, I'm my best self. It doesn't mean it's not hard, or that there's times when I'm like, fuck, I wish I could go to sleep. I also know that I'm my best self. I know that I'm like sharpest and most committed to growth, which also rolls into my relationships when I'm doing the things that I know that I'm cut out to do.
And I think tying it back to where we went from it, I guess like the answer that I have to how do I know if it's the time to keep going, or if a pivot is needed, is like, through this journey, every area of my life has improved, from my physical health to my mental health to my relationships. And it's like, the running it through the filter of, is what I'm doing right now improving and aiding and like contributing to those areas of life, or is it detracting? And is there negatives that are occurring because of my relentless pursuit of whatever it is in front of me? And that being something that, again, I'm probably not as I wish I was more in tune with when it goes the other direction, but asking that question and having that be the North Star that points me towards what I should do next.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. I'm always curious. That's one of the things I try to like zoom out on. Like I find myself in a third person situation with things like that. I'm like, what will this look like as growth when it's over?
Mm.
What will this, because I love the equation of growth will not exist without friction. We know that when we are in friction, when there is resistance, if we are committed to staying in that, to seeing it through, and to learning from it, then there is no world where on the other side of that it doesn't create growth. And so I'm always curious, but I also find myself trying to, and again, this is a fool's errand, because that's not the way growth works, right? That's not the way the learning and growing works. You can't see it in real time. I'm like, what will this teach me? Because I am relentlessly in pursuit of a better version of myself. But I'm like, when this is over, whenever that is, what will I be like then? What will my perspective be like? Will I be different in some way? Will I think or feel differently about something? And again, you can't catch it in real time, but I've tried to be more aware of it as well, to like recognize those moments so they're not wasted, you know?
Are you open to sharing an example of like when you reached that moment and zoomed out and like thought about from that perspective?
Yeah, I am. Thanks for asking. I'll give you one that I think about all the time. Still like as a like a I guess an example, like a bit of a North Star. I I'll try to make this quick to get to the end point. Um, TEC, which is a coaching company that's still in existence, and I am still the owner of. Um, for many years, I really wanted to work with coaches. I was like, I want to help other individuals pour into athletes and their clients and take this passion, this thing that they're excited about, and build a business out of it. And like, I want to get this out in the world. I want as many people as I can impact or reach to be able to do this, because it's something that I had gotten a lot of value out of. And so I did that. So I built a coaching company and at TEC, and we had dozens and dozens of coaches kind of under this model where they came in at TEC and we helped them work with their athletes and X, Y, and Z. The thing that was missing was that it was kind of a teach a man to fish situation. We were very much like giving them fish. And I found myself really wanting to go deeper with these individuals. I wanted to help people build companies, that were legacy focused. I wanted to work with entrepreneurs. And so in that moment, to your question, there was this transition period where it became very clear to me that the way that I had built this thing, which on paper was very successful, was not actually, it did not feel good to me. I had all these people around me, and I knew that if I was being honest with myself, I felt like I was doing a disservice to them. I wasn't pouring into people. I wasn't making an impact on this industry and in the lives of the clients in a way that was in alignment with the impact that I wanted to make and my vision. And so it was in that moment where I realized, I was like, I think, I think I need to shut this down and like retool. And I think I need to change the model. And I think that's going to be really hard. And I think it's going to take a long time. And I think it's going to radically change my involvement in this business, which is also going to be hard and interesting. And so that moment was one of like, I was able to see that the thing that I had built was no longer serving me. And even though it was successful, I knew that I needed to make some decisions that were going to force a tremendous amount of growth. And that was really scary. And I fought it for a while. But I knew that like I could see on the other side of that. And ultimately what is on the other side of that is where we're at right now. And that's what spawned Growth Circle. I was like, oh no, actually like this thing needs to be bigger than me. It needs to be more impactful for more people. Like I started to put it together, and what started as like kind of a small pivot ended up being a totally different company, and TEC still serves its role, but now Growth Circle, as you know, is its own entity and engine, and it has a whole separate thing. But that's truly where, like, in doing that and admitting that level of growth was something that was going to be valuable, it allowed me to like stay in it and create this thing that now I'm extremely passionate about and feel totally aligned with. And I love seeing it work in people's lives and businesses every day, and the work that I get to do in that. But yeah, I had to in that moment. I remember like standing on my porch in my house and like sitting there and like I think this is one of those moments. I think this decision that I think that I need to make, if I'm really honest with myself, is going to change the trajectory of my life. And that was in I don't know, when was that? I mean, that was at least 5 years ago. I can look back and see like exactly when that was. Um, but yeah, um, and I've had a few instances like that, but that was the one that's still like I'm reminded of it every day because I'm in that work every day and working with people in that work. So yeah, I try to zoom out. I try to have those moments of like, is this the thing? Like, is this the thing that's gonna like I'm gonna look back on and say, oh yeah, like I'm glad I did that, or I can see now why doing that hard thing was valuable. You know, there's also a lot of hard things that I don't know that they have any utility. Sometimes I'm just like, I think that was just hard. Like I don't want to like over romanticize. I don't think everything is some existential opportunity for growth. Sometimes it's just fucking hard, and you know, you move through it, and I think you get good at doing hard things, and maybe like not internalizing them, not over emotionalizing, not. But I don't. Yeah, sometimes it's just like I think that was just like a shitty season of my life, and like it might be a handful of weeks. It doesn't have to be years or anything. So I also try to that for me has been part of the process is just we were talking about before we jumped on this episode of like I've kind of just part of my process now is just to not really overthink things. I'm like, I don't know, yeah, this week's been really hard. Sometimes that's the way it be. Maybe next week will be different. Maybe not. That's also fine. I'm equipped.
Yeah.
Because I've had great weeks, and you can't have great weeks unless you have shit weeks. And so eventually there'll be a great week. There'll be a great day. There'll be a great, I think we put so much pressure on ourselves now, like optimization and everything. Like, I'm like, fuck, man, I don't know. Sometimes it's just hard. That's okay. Sometimes you're tired. Sometimes you're thirsty. Sometimes you're hungry. Sometimes you're sore. Sometimes you're also keep going. We're resilient animals. So yeah, that's the end of my diatribe. Thanks for allowing me to unpack there.
No, I loved it. It was, because I think like that last part in particular where it's like, some days just suck. And and that's okay because you can't have good days without bad days. Like the contrast of the two is what equals life. And ultimately the whole name of the game is like, just wake up and try again tomorrow. Because like tomorrow, regardless of today and however many days in a row, tomorrow could be incredible. And the only way that it is guaranteed to not be incredible is if you just completely torpedo yourself and give up and guarantee that outcome. I guess this, thinking about the when I mentioned the book thing, like the other filter that I do, I oftentimes think about worst case scenario. Like what is, if everything was bad and like didn't work out, what would that look like? And when I think about making decisions, like what is the one decision I can make today that guarantees that bad outcome happens? And then I just don't do that. And like that's it, making it so cut and dry and simple of like, here, this decision equals bad. And if I just don't do that one thing, regardless of the just billion other ways that this could go, at least I avoided that thing. And it gives me a chance to try again tomorrow. So that's, you reminded me of that in this tool that I've used that I, conveniently forget for periods of time. And now I get to remember it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's great. I love like that tactical approach and, just keep going. I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves for things to be great, or, even like, people are like, happiness. I've been doing a lot of research on happiness, and that's kind of a silly thing to chase. Like the like research would suggest that the happiest people on earth don't use happy to describe how happy they are. There's moments of joy, there's contentment, there's peace, there's presence, but like this, like everything has to be good all the time, or that if you're not happy, you're sad. I'm like, you can also just be, it doesn't have to be these swings. I think we, specifically in Western culture, there's so much pressure on ourselves to like, am I doing it right? Am I doing it? Like, you might not be, it might just be doing, this might just be it. It's like today, this just might be the path, and it might not feel good or bad. It might just be, and then you have tomorrow, hopefully, and maybe you'll have some highs, but this will be balanced by lows, because that's the law of the universe. And, and I don't know, I found myself, like trying to give things less weight. You have great workouts, you have crappy workouts. Your body feels good some days, your body feels like crap some days. Some days, you're like, knees feel a little creaky. Sometimes you feel like a rock star. Sometimes you run fast, sometimes you run slow. Like, like it all adds up. The sum total of the effort is what matters, right? Consistency is the only thing that compounds. So I'm just going to come back tomorrow and see what happens, and maybe that'll be a little different.
It's I'm assuming at some point you've read the 4 Agreements. Is that a safe assumption?
I have, yeah.
That's, I mean, the thing, like the 4 Agreements is great, but what I think that makes that book so impactful for me is the 4th agreement is just do your best. And guess what? Your best looks different every day. So like, so long as you try, like I interpret that as like, just trying, getting up out of bed and doing anything, regardless of the success or magnitude of that. That is ultimately all we can really ask of ourselves. And that's, this is, again, my takeaways from this episode for myself personally is going to be so much more of like remembering that the only thing that makes something bad or not good is when I judge it and apply the meaning to it, because it just is, and that's not to try to get too Buddhist on us at the end here, but like that's ultimately the reality of life. And I think to tie it all into what we've been talking about, right? Like the entrepreneurs that are successful for, duration are the ones that don't apply meaning to their successes or failures along the way. Because ultimately, if you identify with a success or you identify with a failure, eventually the law of the universe is going to even it out. And so if you identify with it, you're going to get smashed. And so the ability to not is again, this is my homework, what I get to do after we terminate this call. So yeah.
It's only failure if you don't learn from it. Right. I think, that language holds a lot. I'm like, so that's great. I feel like I'm clear as well. Yeah. This is, I don't know. This is good. I think we both have homework on the other side of this call, and I hope that our listeners take that away as well. I want to do a little rapid fire to close us out. Couple of just quick things we get people to know. So, what's your morning routine?
I wake up. The majority of the days, my alarm goes off at 4:15. Brush my teeth, chug some water, and I journal. That's like I have 2 non-negotiables every day. One is to move my body in some capacity, and the second one is I journal. And that is where a lot of the contemplative and like zooming out stuff that I'm able to tap into that by getting all of the excess things in my brain out. And so journaling is very, very important to me. Go to the gym, come home, go on a walk with my wife and dog, make some coffee, and take a shower, start the day. And I am fully addicted to being able to do that pretty multifaceted routine and start work before like 7:30. Like that's just something that really gets me going. I love that.
Love it. Um, this is gonna be a personal one. What's your favorite Oslo flavor?
Mm. I'm not just, and I don't think I'm just saying it because it's,
Because it's
day,
fresh.
because it's fresh, but like this blood orange and hibiscus is like pretty incredible.
I
I
don't
would
think
say,
you're wrong.
the firstborn lime and mint will forever have like a very, very special place in my heart because that's what started everything. And we haven't talked about this a ton, but like this is the first flavor that I developed, like I formulated, right? I didn't have Eden's help or other people's help, and it was really just me in the lab tinkering and being like, this is the thing, which was super stressful going into it because I had nobody to blame but myself. But then the outcome, I'm really proud of what happened when we created this.
Yeah, it is unbelievably delicious, and I can't wait
Hopefully
to have
arriving to you
my
shortly there,
Yeah,
Taylor.
my order's been delayed because I live in the middle of nowhere, but I will have a refrigerator stocked and will be back on my my habit of I'm not going to say drinking too many a day, but if there's a limit, I'll certainly find it.
You're pushing it. Yeah, I like
it. How much of a good thing is too much? What's your favorite recovery habit, modality, tool?
So I have two answers because one is like my answer if I had the resources for it to happen every day. Like I know you're a big sauna guy. I really love the sauna. I don't have a sauna, so it's basically I use my friends. And when I have the opportunity to use my friends, I really love it. But mine, the thing that I do for recovery every single day is foam roll. And that has been a part of my daily routine for, probably like 10 years now. And it's, I don't know. Like it's nothing special. I just do it. It takes like 2 minutes. And for some reason, this is, knock on wood, the longest duration of no serious injuries I've had in my life.
Yeah. No. Foam roller is a power tool for sure. I can't say enough good things about get out there and do your myofascial release, kids. It's a real deal. Yeah. Very little input goes a long way, to your point. So couldn't agree more. What's a book you think everyone should read?
I already mentioned the 4 Agreements. I think that's good, but I feel like that's kind of like table stakes, right? Like that's, it's a good entry point. The book that I give to virtually every single entrepreneur that I meet, which I'm realizing I gave to Christine and I have not given to you yet. So the next time I see you.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear what it is. I've definitely not gotten a book from you.
The War of Art.
Yeah, okay.
Stephen Pressfield. Have you read it?
I haven't. No. But it has been on my list. It's a miss on my part.
I'll be honest. So it was on my list for years, and it was actually like an ex-girlfriend of mine that was like, "Yeah, read that book." And it is a book that is 150 pages of like the shortest chapters and like the fewest amount of words in a 150-page book you could have. And I still remember sitting at my desk reading it for the first time and literally like finishing a chapter, closing it, and just saying yes. Like I've never had felt so seen and connected so deeply with the words written on a page than that book. And the thesis of it is basically what we're talking about, right? Like the war of art, not the art of war, but like the war of art. And the way Stephen Pressfield talks about it is like it's anyone who tries to create something out of nothing. You have an idea and you want it to become an actual living, breathing entity of a thing, whether that's a book or a business or sculpture, right? That process is a daily battle against a omnipresent force of resistance. And resistance takes the form of procrastination, of addiction, of infidelity, of just like giving up and injuries. Like it's just anything that stands between you and achieving and creating what you ultimately are setting out to create is resistance. And it is, again, I read it like yearly now. Like it's a once a year at least thing just to remind myself of like, this is the battle that I'm in right now. But yeah, I think that is a book that everyone who is in the pursuit of creation should read.
All right. I'm excited to read it. I need my copy. Let's see what's going. Last question. What's your favorite place to think?
I don't know if I have a physical place, but I talked about being addicted to the early, like thinking when I feel the quiet of the world is really, really powerful for me. And I think that's, my neuroses or, whatever, anxiety, right? I am always ready to take an input from external. Like I'm constantly like looking and evaluating and it's some hyper vigilance style thing. And so the quiet that I actually get to when I can like fully feel that there is no other input, it is just me right now. That is what I crave. And that's why the early morning journaling sessions are so just like non-negotiable for me of being able to sit, think, process, figure out who I am that day.
Love it. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. Yeah. It's less about space for me and more about less about like physical space and more about the environment and timing, like conducive. Like I'm an early morning guy too. And yeah. It's been a lot of fun, Sam. I appreciate you. You're doing kick-ass work. You've made a kick-ass product, and I'm incredibly excited to be a part of getting this out into the world in an even more meaningful way. You've already made an incredible impact, and I can't wait for everyone in our audience to experience how delicious. And I want to say it before we wrap. Like the thing that is different is that it is truly made differently. Like there is a difference in the care that you have put into this product. And we've talked during our conversation about friction and about overcoming obstacles and about what that looks like. And you have put that into this product because you have chosen to do this in a way that is truly better and truly healthier and truly more meaningful to the end user. And that way is harder, right? You use real ingredients and you're not using syrups and concentrates, and all of those things are more friction filled, but you have done it because you care about the quality and the experience. And I think that it is meaningful this day and age when people create something because they care more about the impact that it makes than how easy or quote unquote scalable, or everything is trying to be faster and easier. There is value in doing things because they are better and because it is meaningful to do it the right way, not the fast way. And so I want to say that out loud because I know that is truly what has drawn me to Hazlo and drawn me to you. And I think that there is value in aligning yourself with people that care about doing something right, not just about doing it fast or doing it because it will make a lot of money. Hazlo will continue to be a wildly successful company. But I know that you'll do it. It'll be in service of an experience that is truly unique. So I'm excited for the endurance-minded audience to get the opportunity to experience that and all that care and effort that you've put into it. So I want to say thank you because it's meaningful work.
Well, I appreciate that, and I appreciate you, and I think what makes Endurance Minded and Growth Circle and everything that you lead, and I guess you, right, because you're the common denominator across all of that is one, your appreciation for people that are choosing the harder path, right? But that being that's the filter of the humans that you surround yourself with, and not that the group chooses to do the hard thing just because it's hard. It's more so choosing not to take the shortcut because we know that there's consequences. And so anyway, that's I definitely see that reflected in all the work that you do. And so, yeah, I appreciate you having me out. This has been fun. And, I'm excited for endurance minded to audience to try the drink and the new blood orange and hibiscus that's out there. And, yeah, it's going to be great.
It's going to be awesome. Well, yeah, thanks. We will have all of the information, for folks to order, in the show notes, and, look forward to having Hazlo as a partner, and folks can continue to engage with updates. And grateful, Sam, and we'll have you back on the show once you launch your next kick-ass flavor.
Sounds good. Can't wait.